Hey there, I'm Matt Tidwell, the founder of Think Through, and on today's episode of Academy Breakdown, we have perhaps one of my favorite companies, Drift. If you haven't heard of Drift before, they are a conversational marketing and automations platform. And really, I think they were one of the first movers and shakers in the chatbot marketing, kind of marketing automation game. And they really made a name for themselves, their product, and I think they have one of the best examples of customer training or training and certification platforms for the users of a technology. So if you're a SaaS company, this episode is for you. I think it's a brilliant example of what many companies and brands should be looking to do with their customer training and education. So before we jump in, if you'd like to kind of have something to follow along with, we put together a guide for this particular academy and then what we've done, what we've observed, and how we kind of got some of this data. So if you'd like to follow along in written form, have the links to the tools that we're going to talk about and share here. There is a guide, links in the description below. It's on our website, it's free, you can have it. So, all right, let's get started. Specifically, we're going to look at three things today. We're going to look at first, the technology that they're using to power their online education experience. They have a collection of tools. It's really kind of an ecosystem sort of thing. And so we're going to look at each one of the tools and technologies. Second, we're going to look at the approach and the strategy. I don't work for Drift, right? This is just kind of an outsider in perspective, but I think there's a lot that we can learn about how they've structured their programs and about how they're kind of executing these different pieces of the training puzzle. And then finally, I want to look at just the overall experience of what it's like to be a customer going through the Drift Insider program. I think that experience piece is really important. You can have all the tools, you can have all the platforms, you can have all the subscriptions, but if you don't really create a thoughtful kind of architected solution, that experience will essentially break your investment. So they've done a great job. I want to just talk about how this experience unfolds. So first, let's look at the technology. Now, Drift has a really robust learning ecosystem. They've got communities, they've got forums, they have on-demand courses, they've got certification programs, they've got webinars, they've got all sorts of things in a massive catalog of what I would call informal learning. And then they also have training and certifications, which are more formal in nature, that you actually have to pass a test and things. So they really have both sides of the coin here. To achieve this, it really appears like Drift is using multiple platforms. And first off, they have a content management system, and specifically they're using WordPress. So they have WordPress in place. They also have a membership plugin, which is what we call gating the content. It's blocking that content behind a login screen. So membership plugin in WordPress, that's kind of the backbone of it. Then they also have a forum community infrastructure. And for this, they're using Vanilla Forums. So Vanilla Forums is a pretty large plugin, and they've really just kind of designed that so that they look as though they're fitting together in the same platform. And then they have installed for courses and certifications and things like that. They have LearnDash installed in WordPress, which is a plugin specifically. There's tons of them. We'll look at others and other examples of academies, but in this particular instance, they are using LearnDash to deliver certificates, have lessons and different bundles and things like that. And finally, I'm seeing references throughout the infrastructure to Mini Orange SSO. And so that kind of authentication, single sign-on or SSO functionality is being provided by Mini Orange. So we can take a look at that too. So Drift Insider is using WordPress, and really it looks like it's a sub-site or a different theme altogether from their main drift.com website, also using WordPress. So it's really great, really common example. You'll see this time and time again. A brand has a main marketing property website, a main website, and then instead of trying to like integrate everything, which they are doing more and more now of, but really the fastest way to get launched and get to market is to say, well, let's not touch this main destination. Let's kind of build this sub-site or subdomain. And that's what they have here. So you'll notice that even the URL is insider.drift.com. I think this is a really smart approach. It's probably one that we do more often than not with clients. And so it's really easy to have like training.company or courses.company or learn or academy.something, or if you brand it with a nice tagline like Drift Insider, insider.drift. All right, so if you land on the homepage here or the login screen, you'll notice that the content is gated. And this looks like a function of the MemberPress plugin, which prevents you from accessing content without an account. So if you take a look at the MemberPress plugin site, you'll see the plugin has also been expanded to offer courses. It integrates with other technologies for emails and learning management systems and all sorts of tools to grow your subscription or membership-based business. Obviously, pricing will change depending on when you're seeing this video, but kind of at the time we're capturing the content at least, you can see that the pricing is around $250 a year, and it's capping out about $400 to $500 for the upper tier service. All right, now, once you land inside of the members area, you are greeted with, I would say, a pretty amazing catalog of different content. And so what's interesting here is that there are courses and there's training. And really the main distinction is that courses are more conversational in nature. They're kind of more informal learning opportunities, or even like repurposed content, repurposed webinars, things like that. And training, however, is often linked to a particular certification. It is a lot of content. Like, this is a ton of content, but it's very kind of Netflix-like in a way. So it feels familiar, even though I may not necessarily know all the things. It's easy to navigate, and I love the big, bold designs, and really how kind of fresh and modern this experience is. So it feels very kind of Netflixy to me, and I bet that's what they were going for, was a very similar nav experience for so much video content. One other thing is that they're actually, they're also using their product, their tool. So you see the little drift bot here in the bottom right corner. Again, kind of showcasing their product. So if you're in their world, if you're using their tools, you're kind of having a familiar experience and probably learning a little bit about how to use the tool itself, just seeing it implemented in the real world with you as the customer. So I really do like the way that this is broken down into training and courses, kind of at the high level. And then also we have some channels specifically to topics that I'm interested in. I think this is a great experience point. So if you're thinking about setting up your own course program or your own catalog, or maybe you have tons of content and curriculum already built out, but you're like, how do we improve or make this better? Like, what are other people doing? This is a great example. So now let's look at how the content types differ between being a course or being a training. Functionality of this is largely powered by LearnDash plugin, which is going to give us the courses, lessons, quizzes features within the WordPress. So first, let's open a course. So here we've got a great landing page that helps set up the context of the course. I love that it's narrative and it's not like learning objective-y, where it's like, by the end of this course, a learner must do these things. It's like, hey, here's exactly what we're doing, and you're gonna get this out of it. So I love how conversational it is. That's gonna make it more approachable for your clients and customers. Great job. So displayed toward the bottom, we have content that makes up each area of the course. So something to point out here is how they're able to build once and reuse multiple times, right? This is great because if you look, you'll see that there's actually multiple kind of video lessons and courses here, and they have them tagged like admin course or this course or that course. They have different tags on the actual imagery. But I love the way that they've kind of made these compartmentalized videos, and then they're using that to build up, a course or a training or a certification program, because it's really going to allow you to build the thing one time and then start to mix and match a lot of content. And so a lot of brands kind of miss that opportunity because they think about, A to B, straight path toward a certification program around a particular like role or persona. So it's like, I need admin training, and they just make the thing for admins. But if you're going to go down that path, you might as well think about, well, who else needs this? And then, kind of compartmentalize the different lessons and modules. They've done that here. It's a great job. And so total experience point. So if we jump into one of these classes here, what you can see is inside these kind of smaller little mini courses, LearnDash is really giving us the ability to have lessons. Those lessons pages track our progress and our completion as we watch stuff. There's just a lot of good things here, and that's totally powered by LearnDash. So the way they have this theme set up currently actually feels like a much larger, more expensive system. There is a tool called SkillJar, which is a really robust enterprise LMS. This is laid out very, very similarly to how SkillJar is, which I would imagine in the Drift kind of enterprise learning world, a lot of brands are using SkillJar either internally or externally for customers and partners. And so this is a very familiar navigation experience among the customer base. I don't know if they thought about it that much when they were getting in the room, but if you look at SkillJar and you look at this, there's a lot of overlap, and it's just because they've done the theme so well and they've designed it this way. So something else to keep in mind. For video hosting, the team is using Wistia as an embedded video player. This is super common. A lot of LMSs directly integrate with Wistia. And so if you're using like a Kajabi or a Thinkific or a Teachable, or you're in something like this, which is LearnDash and WordPress together, or you have any number of things, Wistia is kind of the backend system that's hosting most of that video content. And really that is, Wistia directly integrates with the LearnDash plugin. So it's actually here in the documentation, it directly integrates and helps track the completion settings. So Wistia and LearnDash for progress tracking, WordPress for the infrastructure. It's great. So the other really great benefit, depending on how they have Wistia set up, is they are likely getting a lot of watch data and analytics from Wistia, where people are starting and stopping, where they're falling off on the videos, things like that. And so if you are planning your own infrastructure or thinking about where do you scale, how do you scale your training and certification programs, having the data is really, really important. On the main website, the main Drift property as well, you'll see that Wistia is in play all throughout the site. And so really it's a great use of their investment by having marketing teams using Wistia, their sales teams and other content like that using Wistia, and now education's using that. So you really have like one central repository. It's going to make managing all that so much easier, rather than like a private YouTube channel here, and then Vimeo embeds here, and then marketing's using Wistia, and then there's another tool over here, and then we're using a native plugin on this one learning platform, and then yeah, it gets to be too much. So they've done a great job centralizing that, making it easy to manage this at the scale they're doing it. All right, so now let's look at a certification course and maybe how that's structured a little bit differently. Really, what's different and what I love about this is that just taking a course in Drift Insider isn't a certification in and of itself, right? A lot of people think that there has to be kind of this one-to-one, like one course to one cert to one, so they've really kind of broken this out. I think it's brilliant. It's really smart, in that I could take a course and have a very particular objective, right? I could learn a very particular aspect, but I'm taking a certification that's tied to probably my job or my personal like role with Drift. And so I have a very different outcome. I want to become a certified admin. I want to become a certified, implementer of this tool. And so I have a different goal, different objective. And so they've structured it that way very differently. So I'm going to open up the conversational sales certification here. Again, we have a beautiful header, and this I love. They immediately just kind of get you into the mode of this is going to be fun, this is going to be enjoyable. I love the use of emojis. It clearly states the time, and it clearly states here's what you're getting into. You're going to have these quizzes, and you have an hour to take the exam, and then here's the content. So one of the things that I do love here, though, is that they have the presenter linked or shown. We can see Kate, we have Tate, Sarah, Lily, Kyle. We have all these people. There's kind of an opportunity here that's not in play, and that is to actually make that person searchable or indexable, make it a category, and I could see everything that Kate is doing or something like that. A lot of brands have just stellar rock star presenters and educators and trainers and consultants and solution engineers and all that. And those people are your rock stars. And so people will fall in love with a brand through these people. And so there's a really good opportunity. If I really like the way Kate presents something, I may want to watch everything Kate's produced, right? Maybe she's like the go-to person on this thing. And so I think they missed the opportunity to do that, but not to any great detriment. This is still a brilliant example, just something to take away. So welcome to the revenue era. Let's open up class 1. This is kind of how they have this set up. Again, summary, 5 lessons. They do such a great job at here's exactly what you have to do, what you're getting into. I also like the idea of the badge. They have this Drift certified sales badge. Badging is huge, especially in the SaaS world and thinking about creating assets that people can share on LinkedIn. Like I'm posting this on my LinkedIn profile, have it as a cert, a badge, a training, an endorsement, all those sorts of things. So a lot of good done here. All right, so you can see that we've got kind of a mix of experiences. We've got, a collection of videos. We also have PDF resources. And then really what's making this different is the fact that we have a quiz here at the study checkpoint. Welcome to the revenue era. All right, so now let's look at the community side of Drift Insider. So right away, one of the first things that you'll notice is consistent branding, imagery, style on the platform. And what's also apparent here is that we are on a different platform, right? It does have a different nav, a different look and feel. We can see the top navigation here is a little bit different from the main Drift Insider pages. But if we inspect this page, you'll see platform is powered by Vanilla Forms. So this platform seems to have a pretty active community of developers, a lot of brands using it. One key integration though that's listed here on the Vanilla Forms site is a direct integration with Salesforce. And I'm not sure how Drift is using this particular integration, but I mean, there is opportunity here based on this documentation to think about incorporating community activity onto your customer and account pages in Salesforce. I have not used that functionality before, but I think that could be potentially why they went with this solution, thinking about having folks going from training over to forums, conversations, things like that. And then you have kind of this Q&A happening at the same area where you have your, CRM and your service desk and all that stuff. So could potentially happen that way. All right, so we have 3 categories here displayed at the top. We've got product, marketing, and sales. So this likely points to the most common conversations they're having here, right? Or the common types of teams. You have product teams, marketing teams, sales teams. Let's open marketing. All right, so all the conversations here are filtered on the term marketing. And if we open one of the posts, you'll see kind of rich text, media features here offered by Vanilla. So we got like articles, blog content or blog type content really, Q&As with customers and questions. As a general user, my first impression is that there's a lot going on here, like a whole lot. And it might be a little difficult for me to know necessarily where to just jump in, right? There's kind of not as easy of a starting point as there was for the training side. It might be a little bit difficult for me to know really kind of like where to jump in, other than I'm just, going to go in here and start messaging or searching or looking for things like that. So, but when it comes to trying to solve a problem with Drift or something I'm having with a tool, this is really kind of a really nice kind of behind the gate, behind the paywall sort of community where I can get in here and start to search and ask, questions and things like that. So, a really great feature, a really great advantage. If you're a company thinking about doing this, it does open up an area of risk because now you have an area where you're going to need to moderate and potentially also monitor for, support and other things like that. So you probably really want to make it explicit if this is not where you want people to put support tickets or problems they're having, like where that occurs. But I could see this being a lot of good, folks upvoting feature requests and things that they want to see in the platform. So, all right, so that's pretty much the tech, right? We looked at the plugins that are powering kind of the back end of the education and training, the certification program stuff. We've looked at the communities that's happening. So now let's talk about the strategy and the approach. I love the fact that this is really a single point of entry into the world of Drift. And as a new customer or when I'm on a trial, it's something that was really promoted over email for me to join the Drift Insider program to get all the behind the scenes and see all the tips and tricks and tools and things. So it was a really great onboarding experience for me. In addition to just kind of like get access to Drift Insider, come watch these videos, they also have very, very eloquently integrated all the podcast and newsletters into here. And I haven't really seen this in many, many other places. I think that Drift is here within Drift Insider. If we go to resources, this is pretty special, pretty unique. It's really a destination for all things education. And I can see all different formats, right? So traditional video, traditional community, but now we have these social components, which is one of the 5 key education experiences that we talked about in our key experiences video. They have the social components here. And so these are things outside the LMS that are extending the education experience. And so we've got podcasts and we've got newsletters, things like that. I haven't really seen another brand implement them in this way, like create the video library and the podcast library and put that in the LMS area together. I think it's really smart though. I actually think that more folks we work with should probably look at doing something like this, but they have a ton of shows. They're all over social. They have very different newsletters for different personas and different goals. So like just a lot of really good things here in the resources tab. I think that's another experience point. Now, I did not mention this in our original kind of technology piece. They're using a technology called Casted to power this podcast experience. And so if you think about your education experience, if you want to mirror something similar where you have your courses, you have training and certifications where you have like exams and things like that. And then now you're going to kind of external platforms like podcast and social and newsletter, email, and all that stuff. You may need that technology. So Casted is what they're using here. We can just see that. And it looks to be, again, a really great way to distribute content across multiple platforms, kind of a distribution hub. Also the analytics and things you're going to get on that. Something else that they've done really, really well is this is kind of a role model for how to engage their product, right? So if I click on one of these newsletters, right away, their tool, Drift, a little Drift bot, boop, he comes up. And now I'm interacting with this. So as I'm thinking about implementing the tool that my company just purchased, and as I'm going to learn to become more experienced and expert in this tool, I am now interacting with the tool in many different ways, from onboarding, pre-sales conversations, and now joining specific newsletters and registrations and automations, all that stuff. So again, they're using their tool very, very well to also highlight how their customers, while they're learning about the tool, should use the tool. I also love the fact that it's free. And that's kind of counterintuitive because I often talk with clients a lot about monetization strategies and things like that. And in fact, most of our clients are selling training and education or certifications in some capacity. But Drift has really made this more of like a customer success and a churn reduction tool. Really, it's like get engaged, stay connected with other people. We have a ton of great brands using our product, so you hang out with those people who are also using the product and stuff. And so there's really this kind of hub community movement around Drift, and that is kind of keeping people on Drift if you think about it, which is reducing churn, which is far cheaper and far more effective than spending a lot more money to acquire new customers in many cases, not always, but in this case, probably the case there. So I love that it's free. I love that it's that kind of one spot destination. And from a design perspective, from creative direction, I love the fact that there's still like a lot of people's faces in the product. It's very human focused and things like that, which is kind of neat because you think that they're kind of pushing like AI automation robot, which is like not human, yet they're very strategically always showing people's faces. And so I think that that's really, really smart. And I love kind of that people-centric style they have. I like that it's light. I like that it's fun. I like that it's not academic. We have like emojis. We have all the fun things. So they did remove all the points of friction, you know, like I only had to enter my name and email, essentially password, to get access to this content. So it's a very frictionless experience overall. Some of the nav is a little clunky, but it's because they have so many different tools and so much functionality. It's like, it's always hard to have a perfect recipe, but they did just an outstanding job. One of the things that you have likely noticed just from the thumbnails is the amount of content that's being repurposed across channels. So these have been previously recorded conferences or keynote speeches or talks. They've been Q&As and panel discussions. There is some true just like straight ahead training content. So there is some of that, but a lot of this has been repurposed. And so if you think about the challenge or the mountain or the obstacle to climb of producing a program as rich as Drift Insider, repurposing is probably the only way to achieve what they have achieved here at the scale at which they're creating content and sharing it. Because I know that things can add up and become expensive very quickly, but having a curation strategy in addition to the creation strategy, kind of two sides of the same coin, having a curation strategy is also really important. And I think that that's a big part of the experience here that we're seeing inside of Drift Insider and something that we should take away. Our first Academy breakdown, Drift Insider. This is a truly remarkable company and remarkable product and remarkable program. And I think that it's really something, again, that sets the standard for not only future Academy breakdowns, but really a model for many brands to look at when it comes to building out a customer training ecosystem. If you enjoyed this video, please share it with a friend, a colleague, coworker, forward it, email it, link it. If you haven't downloaded the guide, do that. Links in the description below. Join us at thinkthrough.co. Again, our mission is just to help brands understand the power that education has and how it could be a massive unlock for their brand in terms of revenue growth, in terms of customer success, in terms of brand awareness. And so if you're on that mission, if you're on that journey, you're in the right spot. Again, I'm Matt Tidwell. Take care. See ya.